All right, guys, what is going on? This is episode 600. We made it to 600, everybody. Episode 600 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller. Over here, we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. No Georgia Southern talk today. I mean, I've been kind of going back and forth with Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons as far as the content. But I have my Georgia Southern gear on. I love my Eagles. I always will. But we're going to be talking about the Atlanta Falcons and quarterback Desmond Ridder once again. I think the narrative is starting to change a little bit. You know, a lot of people have been kind of writing this kid off from the get-go. Even during the draft, oh yeah, that's the reason why he fell to the third round. You know, it was a very weak draft, but that doesn't mean that the quarterbacks in the draft was necessarily weak. It just wasn't those type of in-your-face quarterbacks that you usually see coming out of the draft. I think these guys that came out could be very serviceable outside of Malik Willis. For some reason, I think Malik Willis is kind of fallen off. I'm not going to say it's any fault of his own, but that's a whole different story for another day. But you got Kenny Pickett and you got Desmond Ridder. Those two guys are left. And, Kenny Pickett was a first-round pick, so, the jury is not really out on him. But Desmond Ridder was a third-round pick. He was actually slated to go first or early second, fell all the way to the third round, and the Falcons ended up picking him up. So we're going to talk about the narrative that is starting to change on Desmond Ridder. I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions because this is going to be our quarterback for the foreseeable future. So if this is your first time here, welcome. I could be found on YouTube and Rumble. I'm also on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. So if you don't mind, check me out on the podcast avenue of the show. I've been having a little issues with the podcast uploading to YouTube at the same time because I try to do these episodes around 9 p.m. Eastern, but for some reason YouTube does not like my upload. So if you want to get the podcast right away, I highly recommend you jumping to the other platforms just to have that second subscription, just in case if one goes down and the other one is okay, because it just happens. I don't know, YouTube being YouTube. Also, if you want to check out any other things that don't make it to the show, you can find me on Twitter at VFBaller. And also, I have a website, which is firstandframerates.com. Go check out the website. And for the most part, just support your podcast content creator. I really would appreciate it. Thank you for everybody who's been coming through and supporting. I cannot thank you guys enough. All right, let's talk about Desmond Ridder a little bit. Now, I talked about Desmond Ridder the other day, and kind of indirectly when I talked about the extremely terrible article that they had on the Falcons that had us at 31st. But shout out to the guys at SI.com, Riley Shepard, and everybody under that umbrella. I don't know if this is a thing that they do for all teams, but if you really want fair assessment of the team, you should go to the Falcons report on SI.com. I really like what they're doing over there. I just ran into those guys about a week or so ago, and I love the content that they do over there because it's not all rah Falcons. It's just a fair assessment. And one of those articles was made by another guy named Daniel Flick, which I will put this link to in the description box on YouTube and on the podcast avenue. I'll give you this, put it in the description so you get to read this. Basically what they're saying is Desmond Ridder, he's the next QB to lead the Atlanta next wave. It goes really into Desmond, his development and what he's been able to do. I don't want to go down this entire article word for word, but I really like this article and I highly recommend you take a look at it and read it. So Coach Arthurson is basically saying that he outlined boxes for Smith to check during the following weeks when he was trying to develop him, and he has been really succeeding those boxes. He wasn't just he just wasn't able to get to those boxes that needed to be checked and just make a statement that he has fulfilled those things that his coach wanted. He succeeded those. Like, he improved himself in many areas during the first two starts that he had. Pocket presence, poise, command. He's commanding the offense. Basically, the talk of this article is about, when he talks, you listen. Kind of like similar to what Matt Ryan was when he was a rookie. Matt Ryan came in and commanded the offense right away, and you saw how his career ended. I mean, well, not ended, but how it flourished until it ended. It was basically the best quarterback that the Atlanta Falcons ever had. Can Desmond Ridder fill those shoes? So far, so good. I'm going to go here and into the article once again. It says, by and large, the 2-game stretch that he started would determine Ridder's immediate future in Atlanta, and the same for the Falcons situation under center. So what he did was he ended up with a 2-0 finish, which was evidently good to give the 23-year-old the right to show that he can be Atlanta long-term solution. During the 4-game tryout that he had at the end of the season, Ridder completed 63.5% of his passes for 708 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But in his first 2 starts, the Falcons only scored 27 points. But they nearly doubled that in the last 2, combining for 50 points. So you saw the progression throughout those 4 games. And this is why I said, 4 games is not enough to really get an assessment of what you're going to do. But I think he does deserve the chance to be the starter going in the next season. He didn't do anything crazy to cost games. He didn't do anything, that was head scratchers. He did make rookie mistakes, which all rookies do, but it was nothing out there that was glaring that, all right, we need to do something here. We may need to go and draft another quarterback. You have to understand, with the Saints game, they lost by 3, not necessarily totally his fault. I mean, the team basically was falling apart. It was a part of a 2-game losing streak, and it just didn't work out. The Ravens game, I think he played fairly well in that game as well. 17-19, he played all right. Even though the Saints game, like I said, I'll go back to that in a second. He didn't throw for 100 yards, so rookie debut was not the best. But 17-19 against the Ravens, 17-9 against the Ravens weren't the best, but they did try to come back. Ridder did fairly well. 20-19 against the Cardinals on January 1st. And possibly his best game when he played against the Buccaneers, albeit the second and third stringers, 30-17. All in all, there was not much here to really say that he did anything wrong. But not only in this article, you look at other places, like I said, the narrative is starting to shift, because in other places on the internet, you're starting to hear about Desmond Ridder actually, getting a fair shot to be the quarterback. Now, you also had to understand, when this whole Lamar Jackson thing was going on, it wasn't much of that going on. Everybody thought Lamar Jackson was supposed to be on the team and this, that, and the third, but when you look at, you could just Google Desmond Ridder's name and go into the news side. Basically they're really looking at, hey, could this be the guy? Why Drake London believes in Desmond Ridder. Grady Jarrett being the leader of the Falcons along with Desmond Ridder. Where does Desmond Ridder stand among NFC South quarterbacks? When he talks, you listen. Desmond Ridder leads the next Atlanta wave. Desmond Ridder is the complete quarterback, says Drake London. As the Falcons, Desmond Ridder waits his turn. So far, so good. So there's a lot of positivity is going on here. And like I said, shout out to SI for the Falcons report, because I'm not even going to, I'll just put it out there. Even though all these other outlets are starting to change the narrative, SI in the Falcons report, or the Falcons, I'll make sure I get this right. Yeah, the Falcons report, these guys are much more fair than the local media when it comes to the Falcons. And it's kind of sad, but I love what they do. And I think some of the local media is starting to turn the tide as well. And they're giving a pretty good assessment. I've heard some rumblings of some people throughout the local media is pretty excited about the team. It is fair to have question marks about Desmond Ridder, because he's still, an unknown commodity. But like I said from the beginning, I really believe this kid deserves a chance to be QB1. I don't see anywhere that says that we shouldn't. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, I think other people are starting to see this. I think other people are starting to say, okay, this kid hasn't said anything crazy. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything crazy during the OTAs and the practices and stuff. He's done everything that was asked of him since he walked in the door. He literally stayed 13 weeks behind the scenes learning how to play quarterback in NFL. Came in the last 4 games and did okay. And I'm not going to say that he did anything great, but I mean, you complete 60% of your passes for 700 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, what more could you ask for a guy who's playing in his first 4 starts? I mean, I already did a whole episode about that, how some people didn't do too well in their first 4 starts. So they had numbers similar to Desmond Ridder, and their careers turned out to be pretty solid. So, I mean, at the end of the day, at the bare minimum, that's all I want. I want Desmond Ridder to be a solid quarterback and have the team collectively push themselves towards a championship. I don't need Desmond Ridder to be a quarterback to put everything on his back. I don't need that. That's just me personally. I mean, you see it nowadays where, you see the Joe Burrows of the world. You see the what's his name, Pat Mahomes. You see all these other quarterbacks nowadays are basically trying to put the teams on their back. Fortunately, they have supporting cast that they don't have to do that. And all I want is for Desmond Ridder is to make smart decisions. Just make the smart decisions when you go in and under center and you call the plays or you change the plays. Make sure that's the right play you're calling into. Don't make crazy mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen. Every quarterback makes them. Just minimize them as much as possible. And I think he should be fine. And I think other people, like I said, are starting to see it. I think they're starting to see that the narrative on him is not as fair as it could be. A lot of people tried to take him out early, because he wasn't Matt Ryan or he wasn't Lamar Jackson or he was, like some people say he's just a guy. He's not, one of these world-beating quarterbacks. But at the end of the day, if you really haven't seen what he's done, or you only got a small sample size of what he's done, and the sample size is not nothing to be alarmed about, why not give him a chance going in? I mean, if it doesn't work, you just go get another quarterback. But at the end of the day, quite personally, I think he's going to be a solid quarterback. I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to be able to make some decisions that are actually going to help the team. And this is just the beginning, to be honest. Coach Arthur Smith getting this team the way that he wanted it built, it's just the beginning. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. If you like this commentary, hit the like button, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like I said, man, if you're on YouTube and Rumble, please be wary. Sometimes it may take a while for the show to show up. If you want to see the visual side of things, I get it. It's a mess, but it's kind of like out of my control. I put the upload in, and whenever it takes its time, it takes its time. But for the guys that are on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple and Google Podcasts, you guys pretty much get it right away. There's not that much issues over there. But I want to thank everybody for supporting. I really, really appreciate it. I cannot thank you guys enough. I'm going to get up out of here, and I will see you guys on Thursday. Follow me on Twitter and check out the website, firstandframerates.com. All right, y'all. I will see you guys on the next one. You guys take it easy, and y'all be blessed. Peace.